Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky were supposed to meet to supposedly sign a minerals deal. This absolutely descended into chaos, and it actually led to Zelensky being kicked out before any deal was signed.
What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media.
Everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
Hold on. Did Volodymyr Zelensky just tell the president of the United States, who's been bankrolling him, that you are going to have problems? This is a threat. He is saying you're going to have problems as well, but you're just protected by these big oceans. That's why you need to help me.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what
Remember
you're
this.
doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. Your country's in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No. You've done a lot of talking.
This is Volodymyr Zelensky's face as he is being absolutely eviscerated.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. I tell you.
Just say thank you.
I said a lot of times to American people.
Accept that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong.
The problem is I've empowered you to be a tough guy. You're either going to make a deal or we're out.
The Joe Biden administration treated Volodymyr Zelensky like he was an equal partner. Donald Trump here is saying that that is not the case. Volodymyr Zelensky is a stooge of the United States, and that face, the body language. I don't believe I've ever seen a world leader, especially one that is considered a friend of the United States, attempt to talk to the US president, his paymaster, his boss, pushing back, interrupting. This is what Fox News reported.
The president has kicked Zelensky out of the White House. His delegation right now is telling him that he's got to go home. The president felt disrespected. Officials in the room felt that beyond the language barrier that we've heard some discussion about, Zelensky's body language, shrugging and eye rolling, was ungrateful, disrespectful. And the president feels that Zelensky is not ready for peace, and he can come back when he's ready to talk about peace, but he's not in that position right now. And Zelensky is being told he's got to go. The press staffers ate the lunch that Zelensky and Trump were supposed to have. What's shocking about it is that it was caught on camera. What led up to this explosive clash between Zelensky and Donald Trump?
So is there any other oil and gas component to the deal?
We get a lot. We have more than anybody in the world by far. So no.
He can't stop reacting to what Donald Trump is saying. He is visibly bothered. He was there to be forced to sign a resource deal, which is essentially going to destroy Ukraine's future.
You just mentioned that you'd spoken to Vladimir Putin a couple of days ago. How did it go?
Are you serious with that question?
I am. I'd love to know.
It went well. I think we're going to have a deal.
This is an obvious power play. You know that Donald Trump curated who gets to be inside of the White House. This is all very carefully crafted. Zelensky is not the priority here, even though Zelensky is sitting right next to him and is supposed to be there to sign this mineral deal.
You want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, "Hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal?" It doesn't work that way. I'm not aligned with Putin. I'm not aligned with anybody. I'm aligned with the United States of America. I'm aligned with the world. And I want to get this thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. That's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous hatred. But I can tell you the other side isn't exactly in love with him either. You want me to be tough? I could be tougher than any human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough, but you're never going to get a deal that way. So
Zelensky is on the edge of his seat. Donald Trump is telling the media and essentially him. He points to him and says, oh, well, Putin doesn't love this guy either. Donald Trump is taking a position publicly. Vladimir Zelensky is so used to being treated as a king. Do you remember what happened during the beginning of this conflict? He came to U.S. Congress and was anointed king. Nancy Pelosi had the Ukrainian flag. It was draped over Congress. He was given ovation after ovation. Tens of billions just poured in. The weapons poured in. And of course, the million Ukrainians end up dying. So this is actually a huge market shift from what Zelensky and really what the world is used to. If we thought this was theater, but Zelensky was a two-bit actor, and he does not look like he is acting there one bit. He is frazzled. He is absolutely shell-shocked.
For 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden, of thumping our chest and pretending that the president of the United States' words mattered more than the president of the United States' actions.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. During 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact
2015.
2014.
2014 and 2015.
2014.
Yeah. So
I was not here.
Yeah, but
That's exactly right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, the situation the same. That people have been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him.
Zelensky is lying to the U.S. president on camera. What actually occurred from 2014 to 2022, acknowledged by the United Nations, was the Ukrainian government, a coup government which was installed by the Obama administration in the Maidan Revolution as neo-Nazi forces overthrew the democratically elected government of Viktor Yanukovych, leading to what ended up being a genocide. I'm not using that word lightly, a genocide that ensued against the Russian-speaking population of the Donbass. They voted for their independence. They did that in 2014, 2015. When all this was happening. That's why Crimea also was absorbed into Russia. So Zelensky's lying, saying that Putin already was fighting on the contact line. No, the Ukrainian government was literally invading its own territory, committing absolute heinous massacres acknowledged by the UN, targeting ethnic, national, and cultural groups affiliated with Russian-speaking peoples. And he's saying this to the president's face. He's trying to lecture the president of the United States, who is responsible for that coup. They don't need to be briefed on this because this is something that the United States has been lying about from the very beginning.
In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel. We signed ceasefire. Ceasefire. All of them told me that he will never go. We signed him with gas contract. Gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
That's rude, mind you. Vladimir Zelensky is not coming from the place of, I am defiant against my masters now. I am pushing back to save Ukraine's sovereignty and independence. No, he's not doing that at all. He is lecturing J.D. Vance, Vice President, Donald Trump, the U.S. President, who literally hold the cards to Ukraine's future right now, because that is the relationship between the United States and Ukraine, saying what diplomacy? That is, that's rude to say, what diplomacy are you talking about? This is literally Zelensky going fully unhinged, shell-shocked by the fact that he is not being treated like a king and he can't handle it.
The kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring it into this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know
bless.
that.
You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem.
He's absolutely making a fool out of himself in front of daddy, essentially.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering on this
position to
question.
dictate that.
That's exactly
Remember
what
this.
I'm not
You're
dictating.
in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
You
We're
will-
going to feel very
you will
good.
feel influenced.
We're going to feel very
I'm
good and
telling
very
you,
strong.
You will feel influenced.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed
From the
yourself
very-
to be in a
from
very
the very
bad position,
beginning
and he
of the
happens
war.
to be right
From
about
the
it.
very beginning of the war.
You're not
Mr.
in a good
Brown,
position.
I
You don't
was-
have the cards right now. With us, you start having
not playing
cards.
cards.
Right now, you don't.
I'm very
You're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're
I'm
gambling
the
with the
president
lives of
anymore.
millions of people.
You think-
You're gambling with World War III.
What do you think
You're
about-
gambling with
what do you think
World
about-
War III.
This has turned into a shouting match between Papa and child. But he is absolutely correct when he says that Zelensky is gambling with World War III by not getting on board with the current approach. Regardless of whatever you think of the current approach, you could think Trump's not for peace. I personally am skeptical. I am not going to jump on and say, oh, well, peace is on the way.
And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country, that's
with
back
all
to
respect to
you,
your
far
country.
more than a lot of people say
I'm very
they
respect.
should have.
Have you said thank you once? This
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
have you said thank
Even
you?
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you
He's
can...
not speaking loudly. He's not
Yeah.
speaking loudly. Your country's
Can I-
in big
can I-
trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No,
Can
you've
I
done a lot
answer?
of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not
I
winning.
know.
You're not winning this.
I
You have a damn
We-
good chance of
we are
coming out
staying,
okay because of
Mr.
us.
President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
You haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet.
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this
We
cabinet.
gave you, through
I
this
said thank
stupid
you.
president, $350 billion.
You voted
We gave
for
you
your
military equipment,
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about West?
If you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me.
equipment,
You invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3
okay?
days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. I
Again,
tell you.
just say thank you.
I said a lot of
Except
times
that there-
thank you
except
to
that-
American people.
Except that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong.
Zelensky trying to create the facts while Donald Trump is saying, no, you're not going to tell us how this is going to play out. You're gambling with World War III. You're the one who received all of this money, all this military equipment, and now it's all over. Donald Trump doesn't want to inherit the loser. The United States is not in the position to win this conflict. That is why this is all happening. Zelensky does not understand this because Zelensky knows when this conflict ends, he is no longer of use. What we are seeing here is a demonstration of how his usefulness is quickly evaporating. Donald Trump says it explicitly. This guy isn't serious about peace. It's going to be very hard to do business here. And I believe it was a setup from the very beginning. It's not hard to poke someone like Zelensky, who's very sensitive about not only his position, but also the situation with the overall conflict. He came in there knowing that he was a guest that has worn out his welcome.
You have to be thankful. You don't have the
I'm
cards.
thankful.
You're buried there. Your people are dying.
tell you
You're
again,
running
I
low
know.
on soldiers. Listen,
Please,
you're running
Mr.
low on
President.
soldiers. It would be a damn good thing.
Mr.
And then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're
I
saying
said-
you don't want a
But I
ceasefire.
said to you,
I want a
with
ceasefire
guarantees.
because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't
doesn't
with
matter
me.
for you what-
That
what
wasn't
this
with me.
means. It
That was
wasn't
with
you.
a guy named Biden who was not a smart person.
This
That
is
was
your-
with,
this
that was
is
with
your
Obama.
president. It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
The way he mocked him about the ceasefire, that just shows utter disrespect. And some people are feeling for Zelensky at this moment, believing that he was absolutely bullied. I would feel for Zelensky if Zelensky came in there and said, I want justice for my country. But the problem is the war from the very beginning was about the destruction of any kind of Ukrainian sovereignty as we knew it. Ukraine, as we knew it, was made into a complete and total military outpost and vassal of the United States. And this is his attempt to say, I'm not inheriting the loser. I'm not going to be the one to be blamed for the failure that is this conflict. You better stop fighting soon. That is how I took that. You better stop fighting soon, because if you do not, well, that's an open-ended question.
It's going to be a tough deal to make, because the attitudes have to change.
What if Russia breaks ceasefire? What if Russia breaks peace talks? What do you do then?
What are you saying?
She's asking, what if Russia breaks the ceasefire?
What if anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now? Okay? What if they broke it? I don't know. They broke it with Biden, because Biden, they didn't respect him. They didn't respect Obama. They respect me. Let me tell you, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me. He went through a phony witch hunt where they used him and Russia. You ever hear of that deal? That was a phony Hunter Biden, Joe Biden scam. Hillary Clinton, Shifty Adam Schiff. It was a Democrat scam. And he had to go through that. And he did go through it. We didn't end up in a war. And he went through it. He was accused of all that stuff. He had nothing to do with it. It came out of Hunter Biden's bathroom. It came out of Hunter Biden's bedroom. It was disgusting. And then they said, oh, the laptop from hell was made by Russia. The 51 agents. The whole thing was a scam. And he had to put up with that. He was being accused of all that stuff. All I can say is this. He might have broken deals with Obama and Bush, and he might have broken them with Biden. He did, maybe. Maybe he didn't. I don't know what happened. But he didn't break them with me. He wants to make a deal. I don't know if he can make a deal. The problem is I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing.
Vladimir Zelensky is in the works of trying to get the entirety of Europe, including the United Kingdom, which is not in the EU, to replace U.S. support, which is not going to happen because all of NATO has been bled dry by this. Zelensky was humiliated like this for a few reasons that we have to come to grips with. And regardless of whether people think it's all theater or whether people thought it was a genuine spat, it did serve many purposes. It served the purpose of giving the United States an exit strategy. When it comes to Ukraine, what Ukraine has said that they're not interested in negotiating with Putin. They're not interested in negotiating really at all, that they're actually going to go to Europe and try to continue to fight this out and then continue to beg the United States for more weapons, also to sign this mineral deal in a hope that Ukraine will be back in Trump's good graces. Well, that deal didn't even get signed. And why? Because Donald Trump had other priorities. He was trying to see how Zelensky would react so he could not only publicize the humiliation and prime people for a post-Zelensky era. Zelensky is not a popular guy in Ukraine, that those polls that show he is are not showing the reality. If he were so popular, why is it that they have to literally pick up people off of the streets, raid concerts, and drag people to the front lines to their deaths? No, people are not happy with the current Ukrainian government. What did Zelensky do after Donald Trump made comments about his polling numbers? Immediately, Zelensky started to imprison in jail his regime, started to imprison in jail Poroshenko's people. That is who he started targeting the opposition, the oligarch, perhaps, that would be more friendly to a Donald Trump-led United States. So this is the power play here, opening up the opportunity for a possible post-Zelensky Ukraine. It also is an opportunity to squeeze even more out of Ukraine when it comes to this so-called resource deal, the minerals deal. He was kicked out of the White House before the agreement could even be signed. So he is now in a much weaker position. Donald Trump said, you don't have the cards. Well, he has even fewer cards now because he was publicly berated and lambasted in front of everybody, in front of the entire world. And the entire world's opinion of Zelensky is that of, well, he's weak. Now, of course, the liberals, the neocons, the neoliberals, the corporate media, they come out and say, oh, well, Zelensky, of course, said thank you. And he has been nothing but an outstanding leader. And he is so popular and all of this. They continue to parrot the same narrative we've heard over and over and over again. And that should come as no surprise. The fact is that they don't hold any cards either. Donald Trump is opening up avenues to not only strengthen, for better or for worse, which I believe is for worse for Ukraine, strengthen the U.S.'s hand over Ukraine, and to begin the process of creating a regime there. Yes, I said create a regime. I believe Donald Trump wants a regime in Ukraine that is going to agree to the terms that he wants to settle this conflict with Putin. And Vladimir Putin, of course, wins in all of this because Vladimir Putin is not going to change his terms, but his terms become more possible with a weakened Ukrainian position, which had only been descending into weakness for a very long time. But now Vladimir Putin has even more room to assert these terms. And if look, I believe Donald Trump has shown every indication that he wants to wash his hands of the conflict as it is. I am not going to say that he is ready to wash his hands of the U.S. strategy for full spectrum dominance, the United States' aims to contain and weaken Russia in the long term, or U.S. foreign policies, the aim to maintain and expand hegemony at the expense of everyone else in the world. That is certainly not what I'm saying. In this moment, though, the conflict in Ukraine, as it is currently constituted, is actually a drag on this. So it has to come to a conclusion in a way that Donald Trump can save face. Look at Zelensky, look at the Ukrainian regime. It is completely and utterly hopeless. Putting Ukraine and Zelensky in a position where, as Donald Trump said, you got to fight it out, you're going to lose, which is true. If they fight it out, they will lose. They will lose, and they will lose badly.